Let's get into the 104 ScrawlrBox.
Hey Scrawlers, I'm Kat from ScrawlrBox, and today I'm going to go through some of the tips and tricks as featured in this month's zine for the 104 ScrawlrBox. Let's get into it.
This month's box featured the Derwent Inktense Pencils, and as always, we had some tips and tricks for you inside this month's zine. So we're going to try some of those out in this video. I'll be using the paper as provided in the box, and this is a hot-pressed watercolour paper. It is fairly smooth, but it does have a slight tooth to it, so those pencils have got something to bite onto. We're also going to need 2 pots of water, a sharpener and a palette. Okay, so we're going to get into it. I'll be honest with you, I'm going through a bit of a creative lull at the moment, so I'm going to keep things simple but positive, always keeping that positive mindset. The great thing about these pencils is there's so many ways to use them, so I'm going to cover a few of those today. Starting off with some pencil lines, I'm keeping along those positive vibes, as you can see from this little quote I've decided to do. We're going to start by using these pencils dry on the paper and then activating them that way. This will dilute the pigment but also leave us with the smooth first layer to work on. The more colour you add to the page, the more intense the colour payoff. Side note, make sure you erase any unwanted graphite lines before activating the pigments, as once they are activated, they're not going to budge. I love this lime, it's so lovely and bright. These pencils are an absolute joy to activate this way. None of those pencil lines are left. It all blends out beautifully and smooth, so you get that lovely inky watercolour base. Let that layer dry before we move on to the next one. Well, the sharpener was an absolute letdown. It wouldn't sharpen anything and my pencil actually got stuck. Well, luckily Chris has a fancy one I can borrow. Thank you, Chris. Oh, fancy. Pencil nice and sharp. We're going to use this in a slightly different way now. So for a bit more control, but still that really intense, smooth application, wet just the tip of the nib. This way it blends into those painted areas really nicely, and I still get those smaller pencil lines that I want. You may have noticed I kept dropping water on the page at the same time, however a quick dab of tissue fixes everything. Once again, let this layer dry before we move on to the next one, and this time we're going to be using pink. Same technique, only the tiniest amount of water. I'm looking for a slightly more pencil texture with this, and even though that lime is super bright, this pink really layers quite nicely over the top of it. Okay, another way to use these pencils is like traditional watercolours. Scribble on a palette, then activate with water. This allows more control over opacity, so it's great for washes and of course more watercolour effects. And once again, we're going to let this layer dry before moving on to the next. And it's looking so bright and cheerful now. Happy colours with a positive message. Erasing any graphite stragglers, because there's always one. The final way to use these pencils is of course dry, and I'm just going to make a quick border with that with the blue. A simple but effective way to mix up your textures with these supplies. I'm feeling a bit more like I've actually got this now. Mission accomplished.
And there we have it, super fun versatile supplies that can be used also on fabric, which I'm pretty keen to try out, and I'm officially in love with lime green. Anyway, that's it from me. Keep scrolling.
A part of me really wants to colouring that background blue now. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Should I? What you should do though is subscribe. Thank you, bye!